Hi everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to our Teach in the UK webinar. My name's Liv, which we'll get through in a second. I'm joined by Tash and Delaney as well, both from London, which is exciting. But yeah, we're just going to run through kind of everything, hopefully, that you need to know about moving to the UK with ANZ UK. But just to start, we'll just do the acknowledgement of country. So we respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands, the Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation on which we are meeting today. We recognise the continuing connection to the lands, waters and skies, and we pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nations people present today. So here's the lineup for today. I'll kick off. My name's Liv. I'm from New Zealand originally, but I currently live in Melbourne. My job is to support those moving from Australia to the UK. I've been with the company for about 3 years now, coming up in a few months. And I lived in London back in 2017 to 2019 for 2 years. I did a bit of, supply teaching, casual work, and then I ended up in recruitment over there. I loved it. Love London. It's a great city. But yeah, do you guys want to run us through who you are and your jobs?
I'll jump in. I just get so awkward when I have to talk about myself.
I know.
Hi guys, I'm Delaney. I'm the International Arrivals Consultant over here in London. Basically what that means is I will be supporting you along with Liv and my other colleagues over in Oz and New Zealand to help with your journey over here. So you'll hear from me a lot if you end up going through ANZ UK. We are in contact all the time, but I'm kind of here to help with the onboarding process and getting you all sorted before you arrive. I've been with the company for, just nearly a year and a half now. I started in the schools team and have just moved into this role recently, which is great. But I actually started working with ANZ UK as a teaching assistant myself over here in London. So like Liv, worked in some schools over here, which has been really great. And then found myself working for the company, which was brilliant as well. I've been over here since January 2023, so just over 2 years now, and I've just extended for my 3rd year for my visa. So hopefully we'll see out the full 3 years.
Love it.
Okay, morning guys. My name is Natasha. I've been with ANZ UK since November, but before that I've been in education for 12 years as a senior leader in both primary and secondary schools in London. I moved to London actually in 2012 after travelling around Oz, and I absolutely love it here. So I'm sure you guys are going to love it too. I am an education recruitment consultant, so I support the overseas team in placing you into schools in the UK, looking for work for you in your particular area that you're looking for. So it's always nice to meet you. Good to welcome some more. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, for anyone that's new to ANZ UK, pretty much we've been around for our 20th year of operation. I'll just hit that. And we were founded sending teachers from Australia to London, and we've grown significantly from there. We've got offices across Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Canada, and the States as well, over in America. And over 300 staff. We're here to support your whole journey, whether that's doing local work like in Australia before you head over to like the UK, then vice versa as well. We work with a lot of people moving from like Ireland and England, etc., to Australia as well. So that whole continuous support we are able to provide throughout your whole career, wherever that might take you, which is exciting. But pretty much what we'll be covering, hopefully everything. If you have any questions, just pop them in the chat, or like wait to the end. Feel free to take your mic off if you really want to. But what we'll be covering, just like life admin, the work opportunities that we provide, a little bit of compliance. We won't go into that too much. There's quite a lot that can go into that, so don't want to go into that too much. Just the community and how we'll support you. I think that photo was taken from a recent educator event in London. There's Delaney in the middle. We have lots of events, which is great. So awesome to meet people when you're over there, as well as before as well. I guess why teaching abroad, or like why moving abroad, there's like a range of like reasons. When you moved over, Delaney, was there like any reason like in particular that like you wanted to move over, or?
I think for a lot of us, obviously, like being from Oz as well, myself, I think main reason for me was travel. I think the accessibility
Mm,
that you have to Europe from London is wild. Like the concept that you can get on a plane and be in Paris in like 40 minutes is insane. Or like jet across to like Turkey within like 3.5 hours is just like unheard of from Australia. So I think that was the main sort of thing for me. But I think like a lot of people, it's about yeah, personal growth, I would say the main thing, just like
mm.
jumping out of your comfort zone, meeting a bunch of people, and just having an experience that we maybe not may not have access to in Australia was probably something I was looking for.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the same. I'm from a smaller town in New Zealand. So yeah, moving to London was like, yeah, a huge like shock to the system. There's like more people in London than like New Zealand, which is like crazy. So yeah, it's like making friends. You never know like who you're gonna meet and where. Your travel was obviously epic too. And I think also, although it like might not be like forefront the career development side of things, being able to work like in schools, in like the UK schooling system, is something happened. Did I cut it out there?
Yeah, it cut out and I wasn't
I
sure if
can
it
hear
was
you
me. So I
now.
left the meeting, then came
Oh, that
back
was so
in.
random. Sorry, my
Yeah.
whole computer just like froze.
It's
Like it
okay.
went like
We
black.
love tech
Am I am
issues.
I am I back?
Yeah,
You're
you're
back.
back. You're fine.
Okay, good. I'm back. Delaney,
To
do
jump
you
in.
want to
Yeah,
run
I'll
through
jump
this?
in
Because this
here.
is kind of
Yeah, for
what you
sure.
do, really.
Yeah, cool. So I guess like the steps in your journey with ANZ UK. So your initial contact will usually come from your consultant in your home geography. Somebody like Liv if you're down in Melbourne or in Victoria. Um, or like someone like Ainsley who's up in New South Wales or Queensland, for Chris as well. So there's quite a few different people in Oz that will be your initial contact. They're there to sort of guide the beginning steps for you. So usually when you first reach out to us, there's lots of different questions, and the guys over in Oz and New Zealand know the answers to most of them. So they'll start that conversation with you. What will happen from there is they'll actually get you in touch with me. So usually that will happen within like 24 to 48 hours. You'll hear from me, and we'll organize like an initial video call to, I guess, kickstart everything on the London side. Again, we usually have those video calls that go for like about half an hour because, again, lots of questions, which is good. And basically, I'll be like touching point throughout the whole process for you. So if you're 8 months out from your journey over, you'll hear from me quite a lot leading up to it. If you're 3 weeks away, it'll be a bit more of a rapid process. So depending where you are with your planning stages. What will happen as well is we'll go through your compliance and your registration process. So every time we talk about this, everyone's like, oh, what's the registration? It's so fine. It's literally just a video call with myself, and we'll go through all the bits and pieces that you need to know about how we do like the day-to-day bookings, how we use the app, things like dress codes, all those like little niggly things that you'll need to be aware of. But the main bulk of that registration process is around going through your compliance documentation. And these are the documents that we need to make sure that you're able to work with children over here in the UK. So we'll be doing things like your reference checks, your police checks, all of those sorts of things as well. And then basically do that at a 2 month mark before you leave Australia, unless of course you're leaving quite quickly. We do that as soon as we can, and then the compliance team over here will basically clear you for work, is what we call it. So clearing you for work means that they've gone through all the checks, done all the vetting, and you're able to work over here in the UK. Basically, we like to do this before you land in London, so you can start work as soon as you would like to. Obviously, you don't have to start work as soon as you land. That is a little bit ridiculous. If you want to give yourselves a couple of weeks, or if you've got a little bit of travel beforehand, that's also absolutely fine. But we like to give you that flexibility so you're cleared and ready to go. And then yeah, you can start work as soon as you're ready, which is great. So yeah, lots of touch points. You'll get to know me pretty well and my voice pretty well, which is nice. And the team over in Oz and New Zealand are there to support on your time zone as well.
That 360 support that is like super important. And we should also say we always probably say London a lot. We have obviously other offices as well, which we'll get into. So Delaney is London. We also have if you're moving to Bristol, for example, you'll speak with someone in the Bristol office. It just depends on what geography like you're heading to. But I know for the most part, lots of people just typically head to London. Like me being one of them. But Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Do you want to run through like when the best time to arrive is, or do you want me to go through that, or
I was going to say,
Natasha?
Tash, do you want to jump in with this
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, so coming from school background, there's all the different terms throughout the academic year. You've got the autumn term, so schools go back in September. That's from their big summer break, and they normally have about 6 weeks. So it might be a good time actually if you're coming over to the UK, if you're thinking, you want to start the academic year, you could come over in August time, and then be ready for that first week back. And schools tend to like their teachers to start then as well, if they're going to longer term positions, because that's when all the children go into their new classes. So yeah, from around like the first week of September, and then in October time, you've got a week there where you could go traveling. It's October half term here in the UK, so schools generally get a week. If you're in a private school, private schools tend to get a little bit longer, so they'll get 2 week break over October, and then you go all the way through until the Christmas break. So Christmas in the UK, schools tend to break up. So this year, I think it was a Friday, about the 20th, and you get 2 weeks. So schools go back again the first week of Jan. So in between those periods, it's probably always a good time to travel, because then when schools start again, you're ready to go back into the schools. But there is that day-to-day work available as well. And then our next break here, so we've just come back from Christmas, we've got Feb half term coming up, which is, again, it's a week. Private schools, I know some of them do 2 weeks, if you're in a private school. And then we work all the way through till April, which is one of our bigger breaks. So April this year, I know it's slightly longer, but we get 2 weeks at Easter. So schools break up 2 weeks. Private schools, I know they get 3 weeks off. So again, private schools, you get a longer break. And then that goes all the way through to the May half term. So between those periods, I would say is always a great time to travel, because then you're always ready for the next term starting in the schools here in the UK. But they're our biggest holidays. And then you will go all the way through until May. We get a week in May, until we then break up for summer. Summer is our longest period. Private schools, I think they get about 9 or 10 weeks now, in the private schools over summer. So I know they break up around the 7th of July, whereas the public schools, you'll go probably all the way through until the last week of July. And then you'll get a good block off to go traveling around Europe or travel around the UK, before you go back again in September. So,
Yeah.
I was just going to jump in quickly and say a little bit different, obviously, to how we have our terms back home in Oz and New Zealand. Obviously, in Oz, I know we have 4 school terms throughout the year, and they're usually about 10 to 12 weeks, which can be quite long. So the 3 big term setup I actually quite like, because it gives you 6 or 7 weeks of work, then you get a week off, another 6 or 7 weeks of work, and then you get time off again. So it's quite nice to have all of those breaks throughout, so it kind of gets through the terms a little bit easier. That's kind of what I felt. I don't know if you felt that as well, Liv, having those little week breaks in between. But yeah, as Tash said, all of those holiday times is always a good time to travel over, or just to be aware of when the terms start, so you can sort of plan what type of work you're looking for and when you want that to sort of kick off.
Yeah, for sure. And like casual work, you can kind of come in throughout the year. It doesn't really matter too much, like when you arrive. Obviously, towards the end of the year, July, like it's like June, July, it's the end of the academic year. So things are a bit quieter naturally. Whereas, yeah, if you're looking for a contract, ideally you're starting at the start of the school year or a start of a school term. But like blocks of work definitely come up throughout the year as well. So yeah, the timing, it's really, whenever you are looking to move, is really important, for if it works for you. But yeah. The visa. Did you want me to go through this as well, or I can touch on? Do you want to?
I was going to say, I'm happy to sort of go through, happy to go through the youth mobility stuff. So most of you guys, I'm assuming, will be going through the youth mobility visa scheme. It's the same visa that I'm currently on as well. I think it is the most popular one to come over with. Obviously, there are other visa options which we'll go through as well. But the youth mobility visa is something that you can apply for up to 6 months before you intend to arrive into the UK. You can do it early, like closer to your date. It's completely up to you where you're up to with your planning, but you can do it about 6 months before you leave. The processing time, they always give you an extended period of time. It's anywhere between 3 to 10 weeks. I think most recently on the applications it says allow 6 to 8 weeks. From what we've heard recently, they're coming back very quickly at the moment, which is lovely. But definitely at least give yourself that 6 to 8 week planning time just in case, because you never know what happens with these sorts of things. But basically, the reason why they say that is because they send your passport over to the UK to be checked and things like that. So they do need to allow time for that. Basically, it gives you 2 full years to live and work in the UK, with the option of extending for your third year, which is what I've just done as well. For your third year, you do have to pay for it, but you can extend that once you're here as well. It's super, super easy to do. The application cost itself is split into two payments. You have the actual visa application cost, and then you have the immigration healthcare surcharge, which is the NHS, which covers like all your medical stuff. So GP appointments, dentist, all that sort of stuff is covered under the NHS. So as you can see there are two pretty large payments. The application cost itself is about £298, and then the NHS surcharge is £1,552. So if we're converting that into Oz dollars, that's going to look at about $3,547. So that's it is quite a hefty amount, but it will cover you for all of your NHS needs whilst you're over here, which is a good thing. So it does cover things like prescriptions and stuff like that for certain ones. So I would recommend make use of the NHS as much as you can while you're here, because you're paying a pretty hefty chunk for it. There is no option to not pay for the NHS surcharge. I think I get that question a few times that come through. You do have to pay for it. We do also have our visa support team over in Oz that can assist with the application for the youth mobility visa and the ancestry visa as well. So that costs $150. And Sharon's over in Australia that can take you through step by step what you need to prepare for it, and basically hold your hand the whole way through, which I think is a really nice thing, because it can be a little bit scary when you start the application because it's quite a lengthy application. The other visa options that we have is the ancestry visa. So this is only if you've got one or more grandparents who are born in the UK. So unfortunately, not everyone's eligible for it, but it does give you up to 5 years to live and work in the UK. So it's a bit longer. It is a much more expensive visa. It's going to cost you about $11,143 for the 5 years. That does cover the NHS and the application fee as well. But obviously, yeah, if you're here for 5 years, it will be a more expensive visa. And then you do have a few other visa options as well. You've got the HPI visa, which is the University of Melbourne and Queensland Graduates visa. You've got the ancestry visa, obviously the skilled worker visa, which is like a sponsorship type visa. The skilled worker visas are quite difficult to get in education. I do think we get this question a fair bit as well. Over here in the UK, and Tash, correct me if I'm wrong, but most schools will not sponsor a teacher unless you're in secondary, unless it's a specific subject that they're needing. So it is quite difficult to get a skilled worker visa in education. And then, is that right, Tash?
It is, yeah. I think if you work in a school for a while, some schools might really want to keep you, and then they might offer you the sponsorship. But certainly, they would never, say, okay, we've got a candidate coming over from Australia or New Zealand, we're going to sponsor them straight away. I've not heard of that before. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And then the last ones, we've got the partner spousal visa. So if your partner is born in the UK and lives in the UK, quite a difficult one to get as well. And then if you've got a UK passport, so if you're lucky enough to have a UK passport, you don't need a visa. So happy for you. Some of us don't have that as an option. But the UK passport's a great one to have. Or if you're able to get a UK passport, that's obviously going to be really helpful for your travels and stuff as well.
The golden ticket. I wish that I had that.
Definitely golden ticket.
Yeah. Perfect. So yeah, moving on to, like we said, our location options. We've got the five, I guess, main offices. We opened up a new office in September in Essex. It's based out of London, but we service the Essex region. So yeah, I'm not sure if anyone like knows exactly where they're looking to head to. Feel free to pop it in the chat if you know like where you're looking to go. But yeah, we'll kind of just dive in. If you have any questions around each of the like offices, just please just ask. But yeah, do you guys want to go talk about London? It's obviously where you are at the moment. So
Yeah. So London tends to be, I think, the most popular option for a lot of Aussies and Kiwis coming over. So we'll just run through some bits and pieces around like life admin stuff that's good to be aware of. London is, and as Tash said, and as Liv said, it's a great city to be in. The access that you have to so many different places, and all that sort of stuff is just, yeah, unmatched. Like Australia, New Zealand has nothing like that. So, in terms of rental costs, a room in London, you're probably looking around £700 to £900 a month. Approximately anything over that, personally, I would say you're paying too much, but it is London, so the cost of living is increasing. But yeah, in terms of rental stuff, when we're going through the process with you, I will be more than happy to go through any tips and tricks I can assist with when it comes to finding the right rentals and the right prices. But that's sort of what you're looking at budget wise. In terms of transport, the transport in London is obviously amazing. You've got the tubes, you've got the overgrounds, you've got the buses, and you won't even think about wanting to drive whilst you're here. So the transport is great. You're looking at probably like for a day pass. I mean, you can get monthly passes for the public transport at around £184 per month. I don't know too many people that get a monthly pass for transport in London, but it's definitely worth looking at, especially if you're catching some of the trains that are like the regional overground trains quite frequently. But you can always tap your phone as if it was like pay pass, basically, when you're going in and out of tubes and things like that. But in terms of cost of living, you'd be looking at a pub meal for around £15. Coffee, I would say that's probably slightly increased, between £3 to £5 is usually pretty general, especially if you're getting alternative milks like us. And a pint is anywhere from about £6 to £7 at the moment, but you can definitely get a meal deal for around £5. And if you don't know what a meal deal is yet, you will very soon. Meal deals are a great option for lunch, super, super cheap, and you get them from all the supermarkets. So, yeah, cost of living is obviously a little bit more expensive over here in London because it is a pretty popular place for people to move to.
yeah, nailed it. Yeah, those meal deals, I love them. They need to come to Australia and New Zealand, I swear. And then we have Surrey. Do you want to talk about this, or I can like talk about
Tash, do
Surrey
you want to
or
go with Surrey?
Yeah, I mean, like Delaney said, like the cost of living, you know, most everywhere. But yeah, sorry, so rooms you can get, you know, £507 a month. It might have gone up a little slightly, but there's certainly out there. Again, I know Delaney was saying about the transport. So I myself, I live out in Essex. It takes me about 40 minutes to get into the city every day for work. I've looked at a monthly pass for public transport because I know I'm going in the city every day, and it does work out a little bit cheaper. So it is definitely worth looking at if you're going to be travelling into work every day in the city. And yeah, the meals are around the same. It's a little bit cheaper though than central London, and it's what I find here living in Essex. You know, I've got the forest around me, I've got the city on my doorstep, two very different worlds, but the cost of living is slightly cheaper out here than it is in central London, but I'm still able to get into London so easily because of the transport links. So yeah.
yeah, that's perfect. Good to note that for sure. And we have Cardiff, so over in Wales. There's some of the Welsh girls in the office over there. So yeah, Wales, bit of a different experience if you're not looking for like the London busyness, I guess. It's a lot cheaper to live there. Yeah, your rent's around like 500, 600 a month, depending on like what part you're in. We service all across. So yeah, which is great. We work, yeah, we have a great team over there. Your pub meal, again, £15 roughly. Coffee's a bit cheaper. Your pint's probably a bit cheaper than London, which is always noticeable. I feel like wherever you are in the UK, you can kind of tell how much, whatever a pint is how much expensive like the area is that you're in. So that's always a good gauge. And then your lunch is usually about the same too. So yeah, for Cardiff, if you're looking to move there, you've also got the public transport. People do opt for a car sometimes too. It's just easier to get around. But public transport's also great as well. And then we have Bristol. I love Bristol. It's a great city. It's on the southwest of England, so it's really not that far from London, like on the train. And then it's also not far from Wales either. It's like super close, which is great. So yeah, Bristol, super arty, cool, vibrant city. Rooms not quite as expensive as London, but it's definitely not cheap like Cardiff. It's around like yeah, 500 to 750 pounds per month, give or take, depending on what part of Bristol that you're living in. The public transport's great. Again, a bit more than Wales as well, around that £70 mark. And again, cost of living is probably pretty similar to London. I would maybe compare it to a little bit cheaper, but yeah, not like drastically. So yeah, Bristol's great. And then we have Southampton. Have either of you been to the Southampton office? I haven't, but
I've not actually been to the
Haven't,
Southampton
but it
office.
looks
Yeah, it looks very
yeah,
nice.
it
yeah,
looks really nice. It's like down on the coast. It's like on the
Yeah,
water. It's so nice. But I think
yeah.
Southampton's one of our newer offices. So if you're interested in moving over to the UK, but again, you don't want city life, you're not super keen on the countryside sort of stuff, and you want coastal, Southampton is probably your go-to. So Southampton sort of covers quite a few different areas just down on the south coast, but our office operates out of Southampton. Southampton, I believe, Tash, it's a quite a popular holiday type destination because it's on the coast. Is that right?
so I'm from the coast up north, but when I moved down south, one thing I missed in the city was being near the coast. So yeah, it's our go-to. The weekend. It's a great place. It's really, really, really
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so I
cool.
think with Southampton, you're getting like a bit of everything. In terms of a room in Southampton, can be quite a range because it is a quite a popular holiday destination. So you might get some places that are on the water, which are always going to be a little bit more expensive. But you're looking anywhere between £550 and £800 per month. Same thing, monthly pass for public transport around £68 per month. So kind of like sitting in that middle range there. Pub meals slightly cheaper, coffee same sort of price, but pints is getting slightly cheaper again. So as Liv said, you'll know how expensive a place is based on the price of a pint. You'll get very familiar with it very, very quickly. So yeah, pretty like standard across the board, I'd say, for Southampton.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. And then, yeah, the question we probably get asked the most, I would say, I know I do. I'm not probably Delaney, I'm sure you're the exact same, is finding somewhere to live. Do you want to run through all your tips or your what you would recommend?
Yes. Absolutely. So yeah, finding somewhere to live, I completely understand it is quite a stressful process moving your whole life across the world, and finding somewhere to live is also another little stress that you've got to think about. In terms of top tips, what I always recommend and I always take through all of my educators that come across is just ensuring that you're doing plenty of research into the different areas that you might be interested in. So I can always give options. That is a good starting point, but definitely have a look for yourself about the different areas in London. Over here, we don't call them suburbs, we call them boroughs. So the boroughs are really important just to keep an eye on in the different areas. The north of London looks so different to the south of London, which looks so different to the east, and then so different to the west. So definitely good to keep your options open and do some research yourself. Definitely take note of like the really important features of a living space. Is it shared? Is it got an outdoor area? Is it close to public transport? We always recommend, if you can, be as close to public transport as possible, whether that's a tube or an overground or a bus stop, just because it's going to help with you getting around for work. But also when you're doing things out and about on the weekend, it's always good to be close to public transport because obviously getting home late at night is obviously, something that you need to be aware of as well. We always recommend to giving yourself at least 2 to 4 weeks to find your permanent accommodation once you get here. It is quite a daunting thing to move over here and not have somewhere permanent to live, and I completely empathize with that. But definitely make sure you wait until you're here to view a property in person. Unfortunately, we do hear of really awful scams and things like that that can happen online. So we always recommend don't put money down for a place unless you or someone that you know has seen it physically in person. Or just wait until you're here. So find some temporary accommodation for 2 to 4 weeks, whether that's in a hostel, an Airbnb, or a sublet. And then, yeah, use that time to go out to the different areas that you might be interested in and view properties in person. I would say anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks is plenty of time to land accommodation. So yeah, make sure you're going to view those properties yourself. In terms of living in the UK, rent is paid on a monthly basis. Most places will already be furnished, which is great. And there'll also be lots of options to find rooms. So a big one that we always recommend looking into is called Spare Room. It's how I got my room in my share house. It's how lots of people will find it. But basically, Spare Room's an app that you can use where you can browse all the available properties that you can share houses with different people. So definitely a really good option to have a look into. I always recommend downloading Spare Room like a month or two before you arrive and just have a look at the different areas, what's available and what price ranges, just so you get a bit of an idea. And then you can also have a look at Aussies and Kiwis in London as a massive source for rentals. You'll see them on each of those Facebook pages. They will have weekly flat posts. So people will start posting in the comments what they have available, whether it's a sublet or a long-term accommodation in their house. So again, you'll be able to see prices, areas, and that sort of things. You'll probably find that you'll see quite a few familiar names like Clapham, Hackney, Wandsworth, Battersea. You'll see quite Shoreditch even. You'll see a lot of similar borough names that will come up a lot in Aussies and Kiwis in London, because that is the popular areas for Aussies and Kiwis to go to. So again, it's a good way to figure out where am I going to find the biggest community for myself once I get over here. And then lastly, you can use things like Rightmove and Zoopla. They're just basically like your general like rental sort of pages for letting agents. So kind of like realestate.com like we have in Australia. So similar sorts of things where you can go through letting agents to find properties yourself. So rather than renting a spare room, if you've got a couple of you or a group of you and you want to find a whole new property yourself, really good option to go through things like Rightmove.
Yeah, and they're good as well to see how much your rent's going to cost in different areas of like London or wherever part you're in. I always find that really interesting to see. It's a good gauge on depending on what your daily rate's going to be, how much you're getting paid, versus how much you're spending on rent, just so you can kind of budget, I guess, accordingly as well. Yeah. But yeah, types of work offered. We offer pretty much, I guess, everything a school, that a school has. Teachers, obviously, we have teaching assistants as well. You've got your cover supervisors, which is essentially unqualified teachers that go in to supervise the cover for the day. We have admin, and we've got other support roles in the school as well. So think like finance, personal assistant, the head teacher, etc. Is there anything else like you guys want to like touch on around the types of work?
I think you've pretty much touched on it, Olivia, to be honest. We've got all of those roles there. Sometimes at the weekends, some schools reach out and they need exam invigilators. For example, I had one last week, they needed 20 people for exams. So there is that work available as well. And after school cover, the kids clubs after school. So if you don't want a full day, but you want to work a few hours, we have that available. And we have day to day, I know that loads of stuff's come in this morning. We have short-term blocks. So say, for example, you want to work the summer term or the autumn term, we also have that available as well. Yeah.
Do you want to run through that a bit more? It was like the next slide. So
so I've got one, for example, I know one of my schools, they need someone from March until the end of April. So I'm looking for somebody for a 6-week block there, just for that period. And then they don't need them again. And that's ideal for that candidate, because actually over the summer period, they want to go traveling around Europe. So they've got a block of work, and then they're going traveling, and then they're going to come back in September, and then they're looking for day to day. So it might just be that they log on in the morning, they're ready for work. We get a call from the school and say, hey, I need an English teacher today in secondary school. They're available, and we'll get them booked in. So we have teaching assistant roles, specialist teacher roles, general cover, just like you said, Olivia. So there's loads of different roles out there, and the schools always need somebody, so they are available.
Yeah, and we really want to work with them as well to see with the teachers, or teaching assistants, what kind of work you're looking for. Some people want to start doing casual work initially and go into a contract that way. Some people want to be placed ideally before they leave, which we can help with as well. And then some people just do a mix of both, which is like pretty common, I would say. Would you guys say that people do kind of a mix of both?
Definitely. I think some people will come over. Oh, sorry, Tash. I was going to say, I think some people will come over with an idea of starting in one or the other. A lot of people
Mm.
will often come over starting with supply, doing day to day, just to kind of like dip your feet in to see how it is, and then we'll go into a contract. And then some people like going the other way and having a contract before they arrive. So that's also something that we can accommodate to as well. A lot of our schools that we work with are very aware that a lot of our candidate base is from overseas, which is great, which obviously means that they're open to doing things like online interviews. So we can pre-place you into a role before you arrive if that's something that you would like. Not every school loves an online interview, but we do have a bank of schools that are absolutely fine with it. So we can definitely do that and get you placed into a contract before you arrive if that's something that you're looking for as well. Just on the terms of the like length of the contracts, like Tash said, they don't have to necessarily be a full academic year. They can be a shorter sort of block. It can be like a half term, a full term, something like a maternity cover. So you do have quite a range of different time frames, and you can kind of flip between the two. So if you do like a 6-week contract and then like Tash said, they go traveling, then come back, want to start with like some supply day today, and then if you decide 3 months down the track I want to go back into a contract, we can definitely do that as well. It's quite interchangeable, which is nice. So you do have quite a lot of flexibility and quite a lot of options there.
Yeah, and I
Yeah, and then
also
within
think it's
the
good.
oh sorry. No, sorry,
I
you
also
go.
think it's good for you guys arriving from overseas is really good because when you're trying to find your feet and you're looking at accommodation, you're trying to figure out it's a new place. It's good to trial at different schools as well, so you can do that day-to-day work, go to different schools and get a feel for the different areas that you're working in, and then decide, so you don't have to decide straight away. And I think it's quite nice that you can tap into those different schools, different areas, and just get a feel and then make a decision. And that's what I find a lot of overseas candidates prefer when they come over, is that they prefer just that day-to-day stuff to start with, or those week blocks, just so that they can find their feet. They're making a bit of money, but at the same time they're just trying to figure out where they want to be. So it's really good for that, I think.
Yeah, for sure. It's really good. And we also offer, and part of the casual aspect, our ambassador program, which is essentially guaranteed work scheme. It's office dependent, etc. And then we'll run through all of that, but like in our calls and things. But essentially, we can guarantee you up to 5 days of work a week, which is yeah, a nice if you still want that casual aspect, but you also kind of want to know how much you're getting paid each week in the bank as well. Do you guys want to run
I
through
can
the
jump in.
different types of schools?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the different types of education settings that we have. So we have early childhood education, which we will call a nursery. So over here we call them nurseries. They might be like different in Australia, New Zealand, like kindergartens, those sorts of things. But yeah, so early childhood, the nurseries sometimes are like standalone, so kind of like a childcare centre. And then some of them are attached to the primary schools, which is really, really cute. So they kind of start once they're like 3 or 4 in the nursery, then they move into primary school in the same school, which is a really lovely thing. Obviously, we've got primary schools, we've got secondary schools. In terms of the types of schools, we do have public schools, independent schools. Independent schools are kind of similar to a private school, I would liken it to, but kind of varying ranges of private, I would say. And then we have special educational needs schools as well. So we call those SEND schools, and that's for children in alternative learning settings who have additional needs. So those settings are really good options for educators coming across. Really small class sizes. I'm talking like 8 kids in a class, lots of support. So you'll have like multiple teaching assistants in the room as well. So definitely SEN is a good option if you've not explored it before. I'd recommend being open to it. They're really lovely settings, really good for career development as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, and just to add
100%.
to that, Delaney, some of the schools now have started opening up units within schools. So in your mainstream primary school or your mainstream secondary school, some of them have, they'll have classrooms for students to support them if they do have SEN. So you also get that in the mainstream settings as well now, which is nice.
Yeah. And we'll chat through all that in your initial call as well. Us understanding what preference you might be, especially if you're looking for like a long-term contract. We really want to align the ideal role with yeah, the role you end up in when you eventually do touch down in the UK. Pay rates. It's a fun topic. We won't go into this too much because there's obviously it's super dependent on what part of England or the UK you're going to. If you're a casual teacher, if you're on a contract, if you're support staff like a teaching assistant, etc., depending on your experience as well. Pretty much it's all done on a weekly basis. You're paid. We offer both umbrella pay and PAYE. You might not know what we're talking about there, but you have two ways you can get paid in the UK. But it's all confirmed by like us in Oz and New Zealand as well as in the UK too. So we're super transparent about all of that. If you have any questions, just please ask. But yeah, each area of the UK is different depending on what your to where you'll be paid. You'll probably be paid more in London than if you are in like Bristol, for example. It's all done based on like the cost of living, how much it costs to live in XYZ. So yeah, that's a can of worms, that topic. But yeah, is there anything else that you both want to add like about the pay rates? Because it is confusing.
Yeah, no, I think you've just hit everything on the head just there. I think as Liv said, it's going to be very dependent on location, experience, type of role, and even type of school as well. So yeah, we can definitely go through that in a bit more detail once you've had your initial chat with Liv. I'm more than happy to run you through all the pay scales and give you all that information as well when we do our initial call. So yeah, we'll definitely have that conversation with your consultant in Oz and New Zealand, and then we can chat through it as well.
Yep, exactly. Perfect. And then we've got a few incentives and bonuses as well. So the ambassador program I was talking about before, if you assign it before you head off and once you've worked 60 days over the course of a year, you get £250 back off your flights. We probably won't cover all your flight to the UK, unfortunately. Flights are not cheap over there. But yeah, so that's before you sign it. If you accept a role at a school, like a contract role before you head off, that's £500 towards your flights or off your flights, whichever one it might be, once you've done 60 shifts, which is pretty much a term over there, which is great. And then also, if you are traveling with friends, refer them. Even if they're not a teacher, they might look to be working as a teaching assistant within a school, which is like super common. We work with lots of people's friends and partners that haven't always worked in a classroom, but are keen to kind of just give it a go. So yeah, once they've worked with us for 10 days, you get £150 for a referral as well. So yeah, refer away. We love referrals. Yeah, do you want to talk about this, Delaney? Because I know you've got an event.
Yes,
Is it this week or is it next week?
Photo of me is awful. What is? Anyway,
it's actually
community
I'm
events.
too.
So
Do you know that?
our events that we run are, yes, that's you as well. I know, lovely.
I know, from me.
So our events that we run, I know. So our events that we run are super important for us, not only because we enjoy running them and we enjoy going to them ourselves, but it's really important to build that community of Aussies and Kiwis and Canadians as well coming across to teach and live in London. We do have events that run all throughout the year. We do have three main events that we have over here in London that we call our welcome events. And the welcome events are exactly what they sound like. We welcome all of our new teachers and education support staff coming across to London. We have three of them throughout the year. We actually have our first one for the year in next weekend, actually on the 1st of Feb. So all of the teachers that have come across basically from September up until the end of Jan will be invited to that one. We do still encourage anyone to come to any of events at any time throughout your time with us. We think it's just an important way to reconnect with people, and for us as well, just to have a bit of a chat, have a pint, and just catch up on how things are going in London. It's always a nice way to reconnect with you guys as well. Our events look like a range of different things. Obviously, the pub culture is very big over here in London, so often it is some pub stuff, which is good, but we do things like we have a Pilates series at the moment where we have one of our teachers who's a qualified Pilates instructor running up Pilates sessions for us once every 2 months, which is great. They're so fun and so difficult. I did my first one last week and I was very sore. But we have events like that. We have like drop-ins where you can pop into the office, grab a coffee and have a chat, talk to the consultants. So definitely very much an open door policy with us over here. And we always encourage as many people to come along to our events as possible. We also have our pre-departure events in your home geographies as well. So whether you're in Melbourne, whether in in Sydney, Brisbane, you'll have lots of opportunities to meet with educators who are traveling over at a similar time to you as well. So a good opportunity to network before you get here. So definitely take up that offer on those ones. They're always a really good way to meet some new people. We do also have our Educators Move into the UK, ANZ UK Facebook group. Classic, for some reason, Facebook is still like a massive thing for groups, but you'll see Aussies in London and Kiwis in London still use Facebook, so we will as well. But the Facebook group is a really good way to meet people traveling as well. We're all in the group as well, so if you have questions for us, but you don't want to necessarily go through like the normal methods, you can just pop a message in the Facebook and someone will send you a message. So definitely a good way to connect to people that way. So lots of opportunities to meet lots of people and have a chat, have a catch up, and have a drink as well, which is nice. So we always recommend popping along to those as much as you can.
Yeah, we love a social event.
Love a social event.
Social event. But that is the end of the webinar, really. If anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them through in the chat, or like I said, take your mic off and just just ask. I'll go to the next page. You can always scan the QR code and register your interest. There will be a follow-up as well, probably by Friday, with a recording of this as well as just like some links and and whatnot, some blogs and things like that. But if you have any questions, please shout them out. There might not be any either.
Maybe we were just really good at explaining stuff.
Yeah, not a single question.
If you guys have questions, like feel free to email us directly or get in touch with us directly as well. You might have questions after you've kind of processed all the information that's just come at you as well. So feel free to reach out to us separately if you'd like to. You can always send an email off to teachuk@anzuk.education as well. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we have a question. Yay.
Yay. Cool. So we've got Brittany. She's just asked, are there many job opportunities to transfer as a school leader? I'm currently a deputy principal and don't know how these skills would transfer over. Thanks.
Tash, do you want to go for that one?
So I mean, absolutely, Brittany. So I've just come into a completely different role from senior leadership in a school. But just think about all those transferable skills that you've got there and all the experience that you've got as well. I'm current deputy principal. I don't know how these skills would transfer over. And you would be absolutely fine. You've got your qualifications there. So, they are transferable over here in the UK. And we just need to have a look at what you've studied as well. So, what I would suggest is you could send it over to Delaney or you could send it over to myself. Your qualifications, we could take a look at that and we can get back to you on that. But definitely.
I would say, for sure. I would say on that, the other part of the question I think is around if you're looking for like leadership positions over here, if I'm understanding that correctly, definitely it is an option. I think it is harder for UK schools to, I guess, accept an overseas educator straight into a leadership position, especially if you're on a visa. Schools over here are going to be looking for the continuity. So if you're able to stay here for a longer period of time, you're going to have a lot more option to be able to do that. Some schools are open to it for sure, but I think it is a bit more of a challenge to step straight into a deputy leadership role or even a head teacher role if you've not been in the school before or if you haven't been teaching in the UK before. So what we usually recommend is start teaching, whether that's for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, get that experience within the UK curriculum system, and then start looking into the leadership sort of aspect. It is quite difficult to jump straight into it, even though you already have that level of experience over in Oz or New Zealand. They'll want to see that UK-based experience as well. So definitely feel free to ping your CV across to us and have a chat with us about it. But we always recommend starting off teaching first in the UK space before going into leadership, because schools aren't as open to initial leadership. Hopefully that helps.
Perfect.
And
then
what's the next one?
Okay. Is it all
That's
right if you're
okay.
at the older age of the visa cutoff? Yes. So it's up, the youth mobility is up to 30, under 36. So you can apply for it just before you turn 36. So if you're at the end of that, you can be, yeah, like 35, like in a half or whatever, it is going over. So yeah, there's no problem. As long as you haven't turned 36, you are all good. And then you get your 2/3 years. So it's perfect, really. The dream. Um, we have a question, how easy is it to pick up the UK curriculum after training in New Zealand? I'm happy to answer that because I'm a primary trained teacher from New Zealand. So yeah, it was not a problem. I moved over pretty much, well, like 6 months after I graduated from my primary degree. I hadn't taught in like New Zealand before I moved over, and yeah, it was fine. I only did supply, but I didn't have any problems with it, like whatsoever. So yeah, and we're there to like guide you, and if you have any questions, just ask us. The schools are great as well. There's always planning left if you're doing casual work, which definitely helps as well. But yeah, I didn't find it too different, to be honest.
Next one. I have no experience in teaching, but would like to be a teaching assistant. Would I need any experience in that? No, that's a short answer. And the fact you have a UK passport is brilliant. Is brilliant. You have the golden ticket, so I'm very jealous of you. But with the teaching assistant roles, and the cover supervisor roles, they are unqualified technically, so you don't need to have experience in a classroom setting or even with children. Obviously, any experience working with kids is advantageous. It's always going to look a little bit better on your profile coming across if you have had any experience working with kids, whether that's like in a coaching setting or I don't know, you volunteered like a kid's fate or something, just like random things like that is always going to be a big selling point. I myself worked as a teaching assistant and had no teaching assistant experience, but I had worked in a school before in wellbeing. So I did obviously have child related experience, but no specific classroom experience. I think a lot of the times with your TAs, the schools are just looking for people to just give it a go. As long as you have that energy and that capability to speak with kids and get down on their level and just give it a crack, they love that. So I think it's more about personality and engagement than actually having any qualification, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can just see in here as well, I think Marissa said, does it matter if you're still a graduate teacher when it comes to finding a job? From my experience, absolutely not. Schools love new graduates because they want them to build up that experience. Some of them go on to longer term positions in a school. So absolutely not. No, it's not an issue if you've just graduated.
I was going to say
schools love them.
With that as well, like recently for the start of January, we pre-placed 3 graduate teachers from Australia and Canada, all in similar schools in similar areas. So they'd never had their teaching experience before. They just had their placements and they did online interviews and they all got their roles that have been pre-placed, started working. So yeah, definitely can do that even if you're coming as a graduate for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
What's this one? I'm primary trained, but currently work in a high school as a maths teacher. Will I be able to work in a high school as a teacher, or am I limited to primary schools? I would say that's definitely based on your qualifications. If your degree is Bachelor or Master of Primary and Secondary, you can definitely teach in both. If your degree is primary, I believe you can teach up to, is it like year 9 or year 10? I might be making that up, but if you do have that flexibility there, you can definitely still teach in high schools. It would just be dependent on the age range, I would say. I don't know, Tash, if you've got anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think again, like you said, Delaney, it just depends on your experience. We could always go to a secondary school and say, you are primary trained, but you've been working in a high school. They would look at your experience there, and it's also about what you feel comfortable with and confident teaching. Like Delaney said, it might be those earlier years, year 7, 8, and 9, but you might not be so confident teaching years 10 and 11. So we'd look at your experience there, definitely.
Amazing. Are there any other questions? It's like once one comes in, they all come in, They all roll in.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, so there might not be. So maybe we'll wrap it up there. do we think? I think so. Yeah, if you have any
Yeah.
questions, share us through an email on the email address. Like I said, I will be sending a follow-up email with the recording, as well as a link to for bookings and stuff if you want to book a call in with us. And we'll send you some more information. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Hope you learned something. And yeah, look forward to hopefully seeing you over in the UK, which will be exciting.